everybody. Welcome back to the Sales on Demand show. I am here with episode 115. Today we're going to be talking about keeping yourself healthy while working from home. This is something that I really wanted to talk about. And, it's true. I haven't been as consistent with my episodes over the summer here. Things have gotten very, very busy for me. Like, very, very crazy busy. To the point where I'm, probably putting in 10 hours a day of work. And I still can barely keep up with what's going on. And of course, the fact that it's summer makes it just that much harder to get anything done, just because you're trying to do summer stuff and enjoy the great outdoors and the nice weather and everything. And so it's like, okay, let's go to visit my parents, let's go do this, let's do that. And before you know it, the whole week has gone by and maybe done 3 days worth of work, and that just leaves more work to be done next week. So basically I'm done all my vacation time, and I'm ready to just keep rocking through here. Although, vacation's never really fully done because there's always something fun to do. And, the beauty of working from home is that you can do this kind of thing. And, let's get into this here. So, I talked about this today on my Gear Bubble live stream. If you aren't already part of the Gear Bubble Facebook group, then go ahead and request access to the Gear Bubble Facebook group, because you're going to see me in there quite a bit. I do a live stream every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And basically what I plan to do is take some of the topic that I discuss in the live stream and sort of work through it again in the podcast just to get a larger audience. But I'm doing a lot of content, so I try not to repeat myself too much if I can avoid it, but there is a lot to talk about. So I'm not really at a risk of repeating myself. There's so much to think about when you're working from home that I just hardly even know where to begin. But we're going to talk about staying healthy when you work from home. This is important, and I don't know who said this, but somebody once said that the greatest wealth is health. And I got to tell you, I 100% agree with that. And I've been thinking about this more and more just in the last few years, and to the point right now where I am very dedicated to just being as healthy as possible, even if that means making less money. I don't have to worry about my income right now. I'm making pretty good money. It's just now focusing on health, avoiding burnout, getting the work done, saving for the future, and deciding how do I want to live the rest of my life here, right? I just turned 40 years old. So I got to think about, is this what I want to do with my life? Is just work all the time, or do I want to have a good balance of, keeping fit, staying healthy, spending time with people? Do I want to live a life, or do I just want to make money? There is a big difference between the two things. So, I know you guys have seen, the movies where there's the dad that works too hard, and then, he never has time for his kids. And as much as that's a cliche, kind of is a cliche, that's a real possibility. There are people who work all the time, and they never have time for their family. And they never have time to keep themselves healthy either. So that's, I just don't want to be that person. So what's going on right now is, just got back from another vacation for me, and just trying to live the rest of the summer here without getting too far behind on work. But it's going really well. I had a really good summer. I really enjoyed my whole summer. I'm very happy. All the restrictions were lifted here in Canada. It doesn't look like they're going to put any of them back in place. There was some talk about a vaccine mandate. It's already it's already ahead in Quebec. There's already a vaccine mandate for gyms and stuff like that. But I don't see that there's a huge risk of them doing it here, because the politicians in Alberta know that they're basically on their last leg. This is their last life. Imagine a cat with 9 lives and they've used 8 of them already. Well, describes the politicians here in Alberta. They've used up 8.5 of their lives. So if they want to be able to continue waking up and breathing, they're not going to push any more of these mandates. They're just going to let people get vaccinated if they want to get vaccinated, and then not get vaccinated if they don't. That is it. Our daily COVID rates are basically down, below the daily flu rates that we would normally get. The death rate is, again, below where the flu normally is. So this is the normal, right? COVID is here. People are going to get COVID. If you get vaccinated, apparently the symptoms are much lessened. You have a much better chance of just getting a light cold. And that's it. So if you want to get vaccinated, then get vaccinated. If you don't, then don't. I mean, there's nothing else to be said about it. We're not locking down again. I mean, at least I'm not. If you want to wear a mask, go for it. If you don't, then go for it. I mean, this is life. You got to live it or not live it. I'm just tired of people telling everyone else how they should live, and telling people to either not get the vaccine or get the vaccine. Stop telling me what to do with my life. I'm going to make that decision for myself. And it includes my own family, right? My own family has contacted me. They're like, you didn't get the vaccine, did you? And I'm like, yeah, I did. I made the decision for myself because I'm 40 years old. I'm an adult. I can look at information and decide for myself whether I want to get it. It's just like getting a tattoo. Getting a tattoo isn't for everybody, but some people like it. So if you want to get a tattoo, then get a tattoo. If you want to get the shot, get the shot. If you don't, then don't. So anyway, moving on to normal stuff. To date, things are going pretty good. This has been, I would say it's not been a super quiet summer in terms of sales. I've been running out of stock on some of my items and haven't been motivated to put more in there just because I've been so busy. So my sales numbers on Amazon are slipping a little bit. And on Etsy, of course, last year at this time, it was the Christmas of masks. So we were selling masks like crazy. And I'm still selling masks, by the way. And that is the secret key of what you should be selling right now. Is if you were selling masks last year, is that you should look into continuing to sell those this year. And the best-selling designs for masks are going to be things that, people are opposed to masks, or they're just angry about masks. So put those messages on a mask. People will buy them as sort of a silent protest about having to wear a mask. And I've been selling probably 2 or 3 masks a day, which is whatever. I mean, they're pretty good money. And they can be a really good way to sort of, they're almost like a t-shirt that you wear on your face, because it really pops out, with the text on it. Everybody can read it. So, sales are going pretty good. I'm angling up, getting ready for Christmas. I think this is going to be a good Christmas. It's going to be nuts. This is going to be a crazy Christmas. And that sort of is one of the focuses of what I want to talk about today is how to not actually burn out over the next 4 months of my life. We're almost at the end of August here, and I can see that things are going busier and busier and busier as I go. And the time that I have to do, my personal health stuff is kind of getting crushed and squeezed, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm starting to make some changes in my life, and I need to do these changes to make sure that I stay healthy. So we'll talk about that here. So there's 2 different types of ways that you can run a print-on-demand business. The first one, of course, I've talked about this before, part-time, where you're working full-time at a job or something. You've got something that consumes most of your daily time. So you're out, maybe you're working part-time, but you come back and you got to cook for your family or take care of your family. Maybe you're a mother and you've got little kids, so your kids are taking up probably 60% of your time, maybe even more. 60% would be a very low estimate. I mean, I know, mothers all over the place. Your kids are constantly demanding your attention. The only time that you've got to do anything outside of that is when the kids are sleeping, or maybe when your husband is home, or you've got a babysitter or something around. So your availability to work on your business is really low. So how do you make that more efficient? How do you keep yourself healthy and run your business at the same time? This is a challenge. So I've got some tips for you guys for both part-time workers and full-time workers. If you're doing full-time work-from-home entrepreneurship, it's going to be a little bit different for you than it will be for someone who is a part-time entrepreneur, where you're running your business, but you have other things that you've got to be away from your desk to do. So for the longest time, of course, I was a part-timer. And I had a job that was it was rough. Not that the job was hard per se, but the hours and the commute just really added to the strain of the whole thing. So the job, I was working law enforcement, and it's shift work, so you're rotating through days, afternoons, and nights. And you have a predictable schedule with some days off outside of that. But when you're working, you're working. You're at work 10 and a half hours, and then there's the whole commute to work. So I had a 2-hour commute to get to work. I had to leave 2 hours before my shift started to be able to be ready to go on time. Some of that was getting changed for the shift, of course, putting on the uniform, and then the other part was driving to work, parking, making my way from wherever I parked into the building. That was another irritation because we didn't always have consistent parking available for us. So it was just a really challenging sort of daily routine, but it wasn't every single day. I'd work about 3 to 4 days a week, although sometimes it was like 5 days in a row, and then I'd get 3 or 4 days off. So it was very inconsistent, and it was always rotating. So you'd go from days to afternoons to nights, and then you go back to days again, and then maybe to nights again. So it was just switching back and forth. It really wore me down just physically. Physically, it wore me down. I had some really crazy symptoms of like stress. I would get these blisters on my feet, and I thought it was a fungus. And so I was putting all these antifungal things on my feet. And I'm like, why is this not going away? But it was actually just a stress reaction. And I had the same thing happen to me when I went to my military training. I got the same blisters on my feet, and I realized, okay, this is a stress reaction. My body's actually reacting to the stress that I'm under. And it was just really interesting to see that happen, because it was almost like you could predict what was going to happen by the amount of stress that I was under. So even if you don't necessarily notice the stress, your body does. And your physiology will react. Your actual physical body will react to stress. Even if your mind sort of kind of glosses over it and is able to adapt to it, your body will react to stress. So that's important. We'll talk about that in a minute. But when you're working part-time and you're trying to run your business, and by that I mean you're running your business part-time, the truth is that you're not going to have consistent daily time to work on your business. And your work hours, they might not be predictable. So instead of trying to work on things daily, which is what I would normally recommend for people, you may end up having a weekly task list that you kind of work through. And it might vary from week to week. But there's an important key to this, and that is to make sure that you schedule time for both yourself and your work, and to make sure 100% sure that you are devoting enough time to rest. You must devote time for rest. And if you're going to schedule yourself to do some work, don't try and take, the day after you, let's say you're a shift worker, you come back from night shift, you sleep for a few hours. Don't schedule going to work on your business as the first few things that you do when you wake up after a night shift. You're not going to be at your best. And your body's going to react to that. Like, you're expecting to have some downtime, you should take that downtime. So if it is a fact for you that you work shift work, maybe you're a nurse or a firefighter or something, and you don't have a consistent schedule, then you're going to need to just fit the job in, fit the business in wherever it will fit. And it might be just a few hours a week. So you've got to sit and plan, what are those hours going to look like for me? Is it going to be, okay, I'm scaling up my business by creating a bunch of designs, which I then push over to a virtual assistant to upload and add to my stores? Or am I just, working on some of the titles of products that I've got out there? Am I adding some mock-ups or anything like that? Those are important things to ask yourself. What are those hours of work going to actually look like? The same goes for any business, by the way. If you're running some kind of side business on the side, and you've got something that takes up your time, whether it's a paid thing or not, it still takes up your time. You've got to decide, what do your work hours look like, and how can you make them more efficient? So taking a piece of paper and saying, okay, the first half an hour is going to be this, you write that down, or you put it in your calendar. So I have a calendar that's, that I can put things on from my computer and it'll appear on my phone, and then vice versa. If I put it on my phone, it'll appear in my calendar on my computer. So it's kind of like the synchronized thing. Really handy to have, because then I can just schedule something if I need to, and it'll always be there on the calendar, and it'll remind me. It'll be like, hey, here's a reminder that you're supposed to be doing this right now. So if I'm, not doing that, then the reminder will go off and be like, okay. So I'm supposed to spend the next half an hour doing this. And of course, it applies to making a podcast too, right? So I've actually got to schedule time to do this. I can't just sort of willy-nilly do it anymore, because the time just isn't there unless you actually physically separate the time out, book it, and just make it happen. It just doesn't happen on its own. So it's one of those things that you've got to deal with when you've got a lot going on in your life. So you've got to avoid burnout. And we talked about physical symptoms of burnout. If you are getting physical symptoms of stress or something like that, you've got to pull back. Now, we've talked about ways to run a business, a print-on-demand business, that don't actually involve you doing all of the work, right? A business is a wonderful thing, because unlike a job where they hired you to come and do these tasks here, right? There's a lot of things that I do. I'm a coach for a program, and I work for Gear Bubble. I can't really give away those tasks. So, I've got to be there to do them. But the one thing that I can sort of give away or delegate to someone else is the running of my own business. And so I'm going to be hiring my virtual assistant back probably at the beginning of September. And I'm going to be giving this person as many tasks as I can to start scaling up my business, start, throwing in more FBA products and doing all the things that I know I need to do, but I just don't have time or focus to do it right now. So, automation is your friend. Either automation through some assistant or automation through software, or both, right? So you could teach your assistant how to use some kind of software, something like Bulk Lister. If one of your goals is to upload a whole bunch of products and you just don't have time to do it, then you need to give it to somebody to do it. Otherwise, your business isn't going to grow. That's just a fact. So let's talk about full-time people. In 2020, a lot of people that used to work in an office suddenly found themselves working from home. And some of that was temporary. I know for my family, my sister, for a brief period of time, was straight virtual. She was just working from home. I don't even remember what she does, but she works for a software company, and she's involved in it somehow. But she was working from home because it was basically required by the government. The government was like, okay, everybody who can work from home is going to work from home. Now, I was already working from home, so that it didn't affect me. But working from home is vastly different than going to a job. It's both better and in some ways it's worse for you. It's just different. I mean, for many people it's kind of the dream, and I can see why they would feel that way. And I do think the benefits of working from home do outweigh the drawbacks. So we'll talk about the benefits and drawbacks, but there are some things to very much pay attention to that, if you're working a job, you don't really have to focus on this as much as you would working from home, because it is a different environment. But staying healthy in both environments is, it's going to be the same things that you have to pay attention to. So when you're working full-time from home, you don't really have a punch clock that you're not punching in and then punching out, unless you're some kind of virtual like support, and then you clock in, you sit at your computer, and you're doing virtual support, which is a thing, and people do this from home. Yeah, unless you're doing virtual support, you're basically almost making your own schedule, and you decide when you do the work and how much you do and when you do it, which means that you can work as much as you want. Nobody's going to fault you for working more than the allotted hours or the allotted amount of work that you would normally do. And this happens quite a bit. I mean, it's pretty rare for people who work from home to not work enough. I don't usually see that. People who are just not doing enough work. Usually what happens is that the work takes up most of your attention span, right? So you end up overdoing it. And you're not devoting enough time to the necessary things that you need to do to just stay healthy. Also, you're wasting a lot of time with either emails or you're just paying attention to things that don't really matter. So for me, I get a lot of Facebook messages from people asking for personal help. They're like, hey, listen, I'm having this problem, and, can you help me out with it? And then, you'll answer them. And as soon as you answer them, you're basically giving them permission to just take up your attention span all the time, right? So basically what I've started doing is if somebody Facebook messages me, I just don't respond to it. I just don't respond to it because I can't. I'm not getting paid to respond to people's Facebook messages. It's not what builds my business. It doesn't help them very much because it's not really, of course it helps them, but they would be better served by going and finding the information or listening to recordings that we've made or looking at the training that we've got. It's not useful for me to sit there and one-on-one coach people unless they're actually students. But every time I answer somebody, it gets into this whole thing where, they ask me a few questions, and then later on down the road, they'll ask me more questions, and pretty soon I'm basically just their question and answer person. And I've realized that is taking up a lot of my time and attention, and so basically I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to be responding to Facebook messages. I have a lot of people who try to friend request me, so I basically just have to say, no, I'm sorry. I can't accept your friend request just because I need to keep myself isolated from things that are going to distract me. So pushing all that aside is kind of important. Focusing on what's right in front of me right this second is, that's the most important thing right now. So sticking to my schedule. So I make a schedule every single day, and then I look at it the first thing I get up in the morning. And I say, okay, here are my breaks today. So every day I try to take like 3 1-hour-long breaks. And I know that sounds like a lot, but consider that your day is 24 hours. You sleep for 7. That's usually about what I sleep. You get up, you maybe spend an hour just sort of farting around, making breakfast. That still gives you like 12, 13 hours in a day. So, if you put 3 hours of breaks in your day, that still is basically like 11 hours of work. That's a lot. If you're working 11 hours a day, 5 days a week, that's a lot of work. That's like 50 or 60 hours almost. And then, usually Saturdays, there's more work to be done, which is the case for me. So it's very easy for me to turn what should be a normal 8-hour day into like an 11 or 12-hour day. So I don't want that to happen. So I actually have to schedule my breaks into my calendar. I actually put them into my calendar. I write them in there, physically write them in there. And here's what my breaks consist of. So I have rest breaks where I just go and sit on the couch, or I go out for a walk. I'm not like exercising really, because I'm not walking fast. I'm just kind of like just walking along, just letting my brain wander, letting it rest, just pushing away all of the stuff that I was thinking about, and that's my rest. Or I'll just go and have a nap on the couch, just watch some mindless videos or TikToks or something like that. That's a rest break. Then there's exercise breaks. And these, you absolutely do need to schedule them in, and they need to be frequent, and they need to be more intense exercise. So going for a walk is good, but a walk is pretty low-key exercise. And if you're working from home, you're sitting for most of your day. So you're really sedentary, right? So you need moderate physical exercise, which means like a light run or a jog or a bike, getting on your bike, or just going to the gym and doing like a 45-minute to an hour workout where you're actually like sweating a little bit. You don't have to be like pounding the weights and draining a protein shake every time you go to the gym. I mean, if you want to, it's not a bad idea. You'll probably get pretty fit. But regular exercise is vital, and it needs to be at least 3 times a week. And if you need to schedule this in, then do it. It is vital for your long-term health for you to be able to do this. I've said this before, back when COVID was going on. The average North American, and I think that refers mostly to people in the US and Canada, I don't know, not the average, but 42% of adults in North America gained 29 pounds over 2020. 29 pounds. That's a lot of weight. I mean, that is a crazy amount of weight. Me, I weigh pretty much the same as I did before COVID started. I've been doing kind of the same kind of workout, so I didn't gain any weight, but I could have. I could easily have gained weight if I did not vigorously and with all of my heart focus on exercise as a vital part of not just my personal physical health, but my mental health as well. You absolutely need exercise, guys. So listen, what's the point of making money if someone else spends it? Do you want to live to 65 and die of a heart attack? Do you want to live to 70, have a bunch of money saved up, and then have someone else spend it? What is the point of making money if you aren't going to be around to spend it? I want you to think about that. If you're building a long-term, reliable business, you should also be building a long-term, resilient, reliable life. And that includes your physical health. So you need to take exercise and your personal, your diet just as seriously as you take your business. This is super important, and I cannot overemphasize this. You need to be just as resilient as your business is. So whatever it is that you got to do, whatever you need to change, whenever you need to drop, if you need to find some friends who are fitness buffs and get you out there, if you need to pay for some fitness classes, like the $10 fee to drop into a fitness class, and they put you through an hour of intense physical exercise, do it. You will feel so much better, and basically you'll be able to enjoy your life instead of just making money and barely getting through life. You'll be able to enjoy it because you'll be healthy enough to not be feeling like crap all the time. So here's a couple things that I've been doing as well as the exercises that I just bought myself one of these stand-up desks. Not a desk per se, but it's a little thing that goes on top and it rises up. So every second activity that I do it standing. So I will lower the desk, and right now I'm sitting. But my previous activity, which was a call with a student, I was standing up for it, which means I can, move my feet around and I'm not sitting down and I'm not sedentary in the same way. Now, I still think I could do more, so I'm going to get a small treadmill and I'm going to put it underneath my desk so that when I'm doing something that doesn't require me to use the mouse, I can actually be walking. So this is going to be important for me in the wintertime because I know for a fact that I'm not going to be able to get as much exercise in the winter as I would like. So I'm going to get it while I'm working. So there's lots of little treadmills out there that you can buy. There's walking treadmills. You're probably not going to be doing any running while you're working. It's probably kind of hard to do that. But you can certainly be walking, even if it's a fairly slow walk, like 2 or 3 miles an hour. It's better than sitting there. The human body was not made to sit in one spot for 12 hours a day. It was just not made for that. And a lot of the problems that we see with like our bone structure, our posture, the chronic illnesses that we have, obesity, heart disease, they're a result of the fact that we don't need to work very hard anymore to survive. So most people spend most of their days sitting down. That's not good for you. You were built to be active. So keeping up some of that activity, and a little bit goes a long way, helps you actually live a healthy and long life. And you feel good too. I mean, if I don't exercise for more than, 48 hours, I actually start feeling terrible. And then when I, go and do something intense, and I come home and I say, oh, okay, I feel much better now. All right, well, as with anything, you guys, wonderful audience. If you want to subscribe to my email list, you can find that at salesondemandshow.com/start. I do have a free series of jumpstart videos, bootcamp videos to get you going on your business. They're free. There's no obligation. You just have to put in your email address and you'll get it sent right to your inbox. But with that, I wish you the greatest summer ever. Enjoy the last few days of summer here while we've got it. And get cracking. Let's make that bread. Cheers.